G'day everyone. Just an intro for episode 7, I think we're at now. We're just going to run through a few things, getting the fuel tank sorted. We even make some noise, although it could have been better. It was good. And just a few other things. Reply to some comments, and a battery tech tip if you're interested. So stay tuned. Okay, so I thought I'd better put some breathers on the diff housing because I get annoying leaks every now and then, so I'm guessing it gets pressurised. So what I've done is I've drilled and tapped 8th NPT brass fittings in, just with a 3/8 heater hose with a clamp either side, and then I'll run them. I've got them hanging over the other side there. They will go in between the valance and the chassis rail. I've got this breather here. I'm lying underneath the car at the moment, so just bear with me. So here's the breather tank. It's a Jazz Motorsport one, so it's got the drain on it as well, and that's going to sit up over in here, but I'll show you that once it's all finished. That won't go on until the running boards are on, so that should stop any of my pain in the ass leaks that I get. Okay, so it's time to get this fuel tank in the car so we can make some noise. It's been a long time, so I reckon in half an hour, 40 minutes we'll make some noise. Hey everyone, had a good day today. It's Saturday today. Got the fuel tank in, as you can see. Looks okay, I'm quite happy with it. It's got about 40 litres of race fuel in it at the moment. Unfortunately I wasn't able to burn any of that because my battery was dead flat. It's my own fault because I put in an oil accumulator, and what that does is when I'm in the braking area at the drags, I lose oil pressure because all the oil in the braking area runs to the front of the oil pan, and exposes the pickup. So I put an oil accumulator in there, and I just flick the solenoid on when I'm at the start line, and it dumps about 5 gallons of oil into the engine when it drops below 30 pound, I think it is. So yeah, I mean it works well, but you know, I cut corners with the electrics. I hardwired it straight off the 12 volt. And if you leave the switch on, it'll just drain the battery even with the power off. And that's what I did. So I've just ruined a perfectly good battery. I cannot get a charge into it. So if anyone's got any pointers on how to get a battery back to life, it's showing millivolts, not even 1 volt DC. So I've got a backup battery, but that was hovering around 10.5 volts. So I've got that on charge overnight, and I've got the jump pack on charge as well. So hopefully we can burn some of this race fuel tomorrow, make some noise. So yeah, I'll see how we go, eh? Cheers guys, enjoy your weekend. So I had a mate ask a question off of episode 6. He asked about the wheel shake, the shutter in the steering wheel that I had when I raced it in New Zealand. and I got a few ideas. I think the front wheels probably need a really good balance, but also what I think happened is the shock broke. That was the front shock. Now they've been in the car for quite some time. They're quite old, and I think that's what's happened. So it's supposed to be sitting on there like that, and now it isn't. And it was only when I jacked the car up to get it up on axle stands that I noticed it. I don't know how long it's been like that, because it just locates and just stayed there. So I don't know. So now I've got the new Viking shocks. So here are the new Viking shocks that I'm putting in. As you can see, they've got the dual adjustable compression and rebound. They're a much better quality, as you can see if I put them together. There's really no comparison. They're the same size shock, but clearly they're bigger in the body and also in the shaft. So, and they're a nice piece. And I get all these from Ray at McDonald Brothers Racing. He's the Australian agent for them. And now I've just got anti-seize all over my fingers. Awesome. So yeah. So with the drama I had yesterday with the battery, it was dead flat. I had 5 millivolts, so yeah, it was pretty bad. I thought it was gone because it was feeding. I left the solenoid valve on the oil accumulator, and that'll just keep drawing current until there's absolutely nothing left. So yeah, believe it or not, I put a meter across this battery that was in the car, and it showed up 5 millivolts DC. So I thought, shit, I gotta buy another one. I did have, this is the very first one I ran. They're exactly the same battery. They're a Full River brand. These are HC44s. So I bought a new one when I put a new starter motor and billet flex plate on the engine. I was having dramas with starting it all the time. Now that's all fixed. I put a new battery in it anyway and just kept this one. So this one still had 11.5 volts DC on it. So I've got a little C-Tech 5 amp charger. I just put that on overnight and then put that in the car after taking this one out. So what I did is I used a set of jumper leads, positive to positive, negative to negative, because this would not fire this one back up because it couldn't see any voltage at all. This wouldn't actually start charging. So I had to introduce this to this battery via parallel setup. Yeah, so positive to positive, negative to negative with a set of jumper leads. Then I just put the charger on the good battery on the jumper leads, and within 2 hours it brought this one back to life. So yeah, and then I think it had 11.7 volts in it after 2 hours. So then I disconnected the jumper leads, linking the two in the parallel circuit, put that one aside, and then just put the charger directly onto this battery here. And now I left it on overnight, and let's see what it's showing. So we now have 12.95 volts. So she's back. Awesome. Yeah, I didn't want to have to buy another one. I just thought I'd try that. And so there's a tip for you. These are AGM batteries, the glass mat full sealed battery. still got a fair bit of weight to them. The specs on these are, and you know, we all talk about cold cranking amps. I don't think it gets bloody cold enough to be cold cranking amps here in Australia. But anyway, for your information, the cold cranking amps is listed at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's 560 cold cranking amps. The cranking amps at 32 degrees Fahrenheit is 725 on these batteries. So they're exactly the same. This one I'm just going to put back on the trickle charge and just keep it running. I'm thinking about putting air conditioning in the car using an electric compressor, 12 volt DC. So what I might do is end up having both batteries. They're in behind the back seat. I might put both of them in there and just parallel them up, give us that really good punch. And also mount the compressor and the airbox in behind the back seat and just duct it forward. I don't need it facing on my head, just to keep the cabin nice and cool, because the kids sweat their asses off in the back of that, particularly with all the heat generated from the drivetrain and the exhaust system under the car. So I've yet to decide whether I go down that route or not, but I guess it all comes down to money pending, because I also want to put a gear vendor's overdrive in it, just so I can stay with the one gear set in the Diff and just have that overdrive to be able to get some sort of fuel economy out of it. I know when I ran it, I drove it to Wagga and back to a rod run, Mara, paddock bash. I put a set of 275 diff gears in it, and it would hold probably about 2800 RPM in top gear, doing just over 100 Ks an hour, and I was getting about 32 litres per 100 out of it. So I went through nearly 370 litres of E85 when I was running E85 at the time. So not the most economical thing on the road, but it was a pretty nerve-wracking drive, 800k round trip. You're always listening out for, was that a change in the engine note, or was that a drivetrain noise, or it was quite draining, to be honest, to drive this thing that far. But I can say I've done it, an 800k round trip on it. Vicky, my wife, was following me in the work car with a trailer on the back with all the jerry cans of fuel in it. So we'd pull over probably every, I don't know, 150 k's or thereabouts, let it cool down as well, although it wasn't getting hot, but just, you know, give it a rest and clearly refuel. So now we've got the bigger tank and we run pump gas, which is a less ratio of fuel consumed. So yeah, that's about all we have for this episode. Hopefully there's some tips here with people. I'm not sure whether that will work with a lead acid battery, a non-sealed, but you can always try it, because it's not actually, I don't believe it's a chemical reaction that happens with these glass mats. Not 100% sure on that. But you can always try it. Just parallel up to a good battery and put a trickle charge on the good battery, and you bring it back to life. So yeah, on that note, I've got a few other little things I want to sort out with the data logging. We're getting some issues with that, but I'll let you know what's going on anyway. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like it, share it, and hit that subscribe button, which is probably about here somewhere. Alright, cheers everyone.